This day in sports history. It's May 25th, and on this day in 1965, it was Muhammad Ali's famous Phantom Punch. Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston, the rematch. The first bout on February 25, 1964 in Miami ended with Liston failing to answer the bell for the seventh round, with the fighter then still known as Cassius Clay taking Liston's heavyweight crown. There were shouts of a fix, an investigation was conducted, and it was determined that Liston was truly injured, and the shouts of a fixed fight drifted into echoes. Now, several things happened between the first bout and this second one. Ali thought that people would call his win against Liston a fluke, and he wanted to prove to the world that he was deserving of the heavyweight title. A rematch was initially agreed to be fought in Boston in November of 1964, but Ali developed a hernia a few days prior to that bout that required surgery, and so the fight was delayed and rescheduled, and then relocated to Lewiston, Maine for May 25, 1965. Now, Lewiston was a rather unusual place to hold a fight of this caliber. This was the first ever heavyweight title fight the state had ever hosted, and it would be the last. Only 2,500 people showed up to watch it. The referee appointed for the fight was former heavyweight champ Jersey Joe Walcott. That would also prove to be controversial, and he would never referee another fight after this one. When the bell rang to start it, Ali began circling clockwise like a second hand around Liston in the center of the ring. Liston stalked, Ali danced. Liston leaned in to throw a punch, Ali's face tantalizingly just out of reach. A few punches were landed early. Ali got a counter jab in, and then about midway through the first round, Liston threw a left. Ali countered with a right over the left and tagged Liston's jaw, but nobody saw it. It was a phantom punch, or what Ali called his anchor punch, and he had been working on it for this fight, and he would use it for a lot of fights later on. But the result of Ali's anchor punch was that Sonny went down with his back on the mat, and Ali standing over him, shouting to get up and fight, and nobody's going to believe this. At that moment, the shutter on ringside photographer Neil Leifer's camera blinked, capturing the now iconic image of Ali standing over the prone Liston. Jersey Joe Walcott tried to get Ali to go to a neutral corner, but Ali was still yelling at Liston. And that's where everybody remembers the fight ending. But there actually was more to it. Ali went into a victory dance around the ring, and Walcott never started a count on Liston. When he came back to Liston, the fighter was up on his feet. Walcott held Liston's gloves in his hands, standing between the two fighters, but he looked confused. He looked at the ringside judges, asking what the count was. And then Walcott stepped away and leaned over the ropes, trying to get a consensus on the count that he had never started. When Walcott stepped away, the two fighters considered that to be the restart of the fight. Ali actually landed several more punches before Walcott came back in between the fighters, officially stopping the fight. It was a first-round knockout for Ali, and he retained the title. Immediately, shouts of "fake" were screamed from those in attendance. Nobody had seen the punch that put Liston on the mat. Once again, talk of a fix were bandied about, but when folks started to look at the film of the fight a little bit closer and a little bit slower, a connection between Ali's right and Liston's jaw can actually be seen. The punch was real. Whether it caused the damage that Liston showed that night is debatable. But after this fight, Liston was damaged goods. Nobody would touch him for a title fight, and he struggled to find anybody that would fight him until his death in 1970. On this day in 1935, Babe Ruth hit the final home runs of his career, belting 3 for the Boston Braves while driving in 6 runs and going 4 for 4 on the day. This was at Pittsburgh's Forbes Field, and Ruth proved he still had a little pop left in his bat. Career homer number 714 cleared the ballpark and was estimated to be a 600-foot shot, but it was never measured. It was the first ball hit completely out of Forbes Field, which had been around since 1909. Unfortunately, the Braves could not muster much more on this day, and Babe's efforts were in an 11-7 losing effort to the Pirates. And on this day in 1964, 328 people died in the world's worst soccer stadium disaster. This happened during a match between Argentina and Peru in Lima. The game was part of an Olympic qualifying tournament, and the stadium was packed to the gills with 53,000 fans. Peru trailed 1-0 in the first half when they seemed to equalize on a deflected goal, but the referee called a foul on the Peruvian player and disallowed the goal. Two fans jumped onto the pitch and attacked the referee. Police responded to the pitch invaders and brutally attacked one of the men. In protest of the fans' harsh treatment by the police, fans began throwing things at the policemen, causing them to respond with tear gas dispersed into the crowd. That caused a flood of people to the exits, and the crush was on. The 328 victims mostly died by asphyxiation. Others were trampled to death. But what makes this stadium disaster different from the others is that once fans escaped into the street, police opened fire on a portion of the crowd. The official number released by the government was 2 killed in the shooting, but those who were there that day say the number is much, much higher. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. If you are a fan of mac and cheese and you live here in the U.S., then you can thank one of Thomas Jefferson's slaves for popularizing it. When Jefferson traveled to France in the 1780s when he was a diplomat, he brought along James Hemmings. Hemmings learned the art of French cooking while he was there, and one of the dishes he learned to make was a version of mac and cheese. And when he came back to the U.S., he served it on several occasions, helping popularize the dish. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.